What up, world? It's Fess of Reverb, and welcome to Patchwork, where we talk about performing with modular and modular performance systems. We are here with my performance rig, and I'm going to talk about my own because everybody's performance rack should be built to suit your own needs and taste, quite frankly. And by explaining how I've built my system the way I have, it might help you make some of the same or even different decisions about what's right for you. So I discovered modular synthesis simply from the standpoint of being a DJ, a beat maker, and a gearhead. And I'm always on the lookout for new sound to build song ideas and just help me craft beats whenever I'm feeling blockage. So I always love this concept of generative music. And that's music that continually evolves due to the artistic decisions made by the artist rather than playing predetermined notes. So my Eurorack system is entirely built around that concept of generative music. And if you want to explore more about modular, definitely click the link below and read up on it at Reverb News. So let's just jump right into my performance rig, starting with the case. So this is the case that I use for performing. This is pretty much the only case that I bring out now. This is the Make Noise 7U CV bus case by Elite Modular, and this is actually Make Noise's first case that they had for their shared system. Sometimes find some used listings for this exact case, or look out for Make Noise's metal 7U CV bus case, which is the same size, but it's just a metal frame. The main reason why I enjoy this case is because of this CV interface bus right here. This is a CV bus that is a mult and also an audio interface. So it's really cool and really handy. And also the main part about it is you have this CV bus here that is a buffered mult. And what is a buffered mult? It's just a splitter that allows you to send one signal to multiple destinations. And this is buffered, so that means that I could actually send pitch and just all sorts of crazy modulation through this CV bolt. All the modules that are in between here change out a lot, but the one constant thing about my performance rig is this case. So for my VCOs, I'm a big fan of using like a hybrid synthesis setup. In my case, I use one analog VCO and then two other digital VCOs. I'm using the STO by Make Noise as my analog VCO. This is a sub-timbral oscillator, and I'm a big fan of sub-timbral frequencies, so I use this for a lot of bass lines. And then my other two voices are digital oscillators. And first, we have the Mutable Instruments rings, which some people don't like to put in VCO category, but I certainly do because that's how I'm using it. And new to my system, we have the Osiris wavetable oscillator. And I did a video of the Osiris before, and I wasn't lying when I said that this module will replace about 3 to 4 modules in my performance rig, and that's exactly what it's done. This is a really, really cool module too because it has a VCA built into it. So I have bought and sold tons of VCOs on Reverb because you never really know what something's gonna sound like until you actually try it out. And that's the wonderful thing about Reverb. Most of the modular that we buy holds our value, and we could just easily go and resell that if we don't like the way it sounds in our systems. With using these two digital oscillators, I have so much options and quick control, and everything stays in tune. And I like to keep my VCOs in the middle of my system so I don't really get all frantic and like hit the frequency knob and like slightly change the tuning or something. Now, Maths by Make Noise and Pamela's New Workout by ALM Busy Circuits are two of the top-selling, most popular modules on Reverb right now. And what can I say? I'm not that different from you after all. I love them both, and I have them both in my system. Both of these are capable of doing lots of the same things, but they also excel in separate areas, and that's exactly how I'm using it. I'm using PAMs as my main clock generator, but I'm also getting a few other functions from PAMs, like getting a source of random voltage and a source of modulation. And I'm using MAVs as my envelope generator, and I'm also using MAVs as a CV source and another source of modulation. And because I interact with them so much and they serve as my brain for my performance system, I like to keep them on separate ends of the case. Usually the stuff that I'm touching the most when I'm on stage, I want to keep like on the ends, because when my wires get all jumbled up in the middle, if I'm starting to fiddle with modules in the middle, then everything gets like thrown out of whack. And yeah, I get lots of function out of both of these amazing versatile function generators. So I have a little bit of West Coast synthesis in my performance rig as well, in the form of low-pass gates. My low-pass gate is this LXD by Make Noise. This is a great low-pass gate. Doesn't have any knobs on it, so you do need a CV source to open and close it, but that's what I use my channels on MAVs for here. Now I like the LXD low-pass gate in particular because it's small, of course, it doesn't take up much HP, but I also love the sound of it. This output right here has the plus 12 dB output that just sounds great, especially for bass lines, which is really how I'm using it in combination with the STO. And of course, why low-pass gates are so great is because it can give you nice percussive, natural, plucky type character to your voice. So that's how I'm using it. But yeah, the LXD is a great low-pass gate that I highly recommend, especially for performing. So earlier I touched on how generative music is really what attracted me to modular synthesis in the first place. And these two modules, my random voltage generators, are the main pieces to the generative aspect of this system. First and foremost, I have the Turing machine by Music Think Modular with the Pulsus expander attached. Basically, if you have this big knob set at 12 o'clock and you're clocking it, it will generate random voltage on this output right here. And then if you get into a groove or a pitch that's generated from this that you like, you could quickly lock that groove or loop it, and then the loop length is based off whatever the length is set to here on the length knob. So you can do 2 steps all the way up to 16 steps. Now, I'm also using the random step. This is a collaborative module from DivKid and Steady State Fate. This is a sample and hold module. You have 3 different sample and holds here. Each one of these sample and holds has 2 separate outputs, a unipolar output and a bipolar output. And I'm using this in tandem with the Turing machine. Again, this is like my main meat and potatoes of my generative system here. So what I do is I come out of the Turing machine and I use that random voltage as my random step sample and hold sample input. So that way they both are working in tandem, but now that I'm sampling this random voltage, this is also putting out 6 outputs of other random voltage that it's getting from the Turing machine. So it all relates. But where does all that random voltage go? Because if I just sent that right to my oscillators, it'll sound all over the place. But what I really do is I send all of that into my quantizer. I'm using the Intuitive Quantizer by ADAC System. And what is a quantizer? Well, a quantizer takes random voltage and corrects that random voltage to the nearest note on any given scale that you select. So I love this quantizer because it's quad. It has 4 separate channels. And I also love it because you have this nice little touch keyboard right here where you could just set whatever scale you want. And it has built-in scales. And also you have a gate input and a gate output. This is actually like the main thing that I wanted to share and why I'm so excited about this performance system, why I love taking it out, because these modules here mainly are the main elements of generative music. So if you have a quantizer, if you have a random voltage generator, even if you don't have a random voltage generator, if you have just any sort of modulation source with a quantizer, you have elements to make generative music. So my utilities are, to anybody that's looking at this system, they're kind of scattered all over the place, but they fit perfectly in the way that I like to use them, especially when I'm on stage. First off the bat, my main utility is what I was touching on earlier. It's built into this case, and that's the CV bus right here. I'm also using the DivKid mutes. This is another collaborative module by DivKid with Bafako modular. And I use this to basically be able to mute certain voices really quickly. This is really great because it also has Vactrals built into it, and Vactrals are the main component within low-pass gates. So that way, whenever I'm muting stuff, like a bass line or something, it doesn't click. It's just a nice, soft mute, and I can do a momentary mute or just like latch it. But you could also mute modulation into this. You have 4 inputs and 4 outs. So yeah, love mutes. I'm also using a quad VCA. This is Veils by Mutable Instruments. This is actually a clone of Veils, but it's still Veils nonetheless, and it's a quad VCA. But I'm not using VCAs in the traditional sense. As you can see now, I'm not really using any subtractive style patches. So I'm really using my VCA to just control the level of my modulation sources. So I would run like LFOs or whatever else I want to into these VCA inputs, and I got more knobs to just control the level of whatever modulation I'm sending out. My other utility is a sequential switch, and I'm using the Vice Verga by Noise Engineering. I like this sequential switch because it's a bit more musical than most sequential switches in the fact that it can do random switching. Now, obviously, sequential switches have lots of different uses, but it can get pretty complicated. Definitely research how you could use a sequential switch within your system. How I'm using it is to create ratchets and have those ratchets randomly trigger. And for my last utility, I'm using the Beast Chalkboard by ALM Busy Circuits. This is a precision adder, and what a precision adder is, it basically allows you to change octaves of whatever sequence that you're running through here by just the flick of a knob. You can go +1, +2, -1, -2 without having to retune all of your oscillators. So for my LFOs, obviously I can get LFOs out of Pam's new workout and out of Maths, but I'm also using another DivKid module, the DivKid Oct. And this is a DivKid collaboration that he did with Instruo. And I really like Oct because it is an 8-output triangle LFO, and these are 8 organic LFOs, meaning you can't sync these LFOs. If you want to really reference the rate, you just have to look at the LEDs. So you see as you go clockwise, you get faster, with this being your slowest at the bottom and this being your fastest at the top. This does go up to audio rates. I like to feed Oct into my VCA and then have a full index or amplitude control of my actual modulation. And then of course, like I said earlier, I can get LFOs from Maths if I wanted to, but I really just like to use Oct for all of my modulation to keep things just feeling natural and organic as this module was made to be. So for my mixer, in my system, I'm using a mixer as an audio mixer, not a CV mixer. And for my audio mixer in this system, I'm using the Listen 4 by 4MS. This is a 4-channel mixer with 2 mono and 2 stereo inputs, and a stereo output, and a headphone out, which I really take advantage of. This is also capable of working at modular level and at line level. If you are really familiar with the differences between the two, definitely research that, because that's something that is really important, especially when you're performing with modular. So for my effects, the real fun part about Modular, in my opinion, is playing with effects, especially live. Would my performance case even really be a performance case if I didn't have the Performer by Modbat Modular? I was very excited when this came out, simply because of the fact that it is a multi-effects unit with arcade-style trigger buttons on it. So this is really a module that is built for performance and triggering your effects in rhythm with whatever sequence that you're feeding it. I actually use this in tandem with the Osiris because the Osiris just sounds great coming out of this thing. And then I also use the Mimeophone by Make Noise as a delay. I use this in tandem with rings actually, so I run rings into here. This is a stereo delay, of course, so I get a nice balanced wide stereo delay feel. And it also has Make Noise's nice reverb built within it. So in addition to delay, I get some nice reverb on top of that. And the great thing about both of them is that they have clock inputs, so they could stay in sync with whatever tempo my melody is at the point that it's playing. So yeah, those are my effects. And of course, I could run more effects externally, but I like to just stay limited to only a few effects modules within the performance rigs. I tried doing this before where I had like 3 or 4 effects modules in there and it just got too crazy. You see, I'm not really using any subtractive style patching in this system. So I didn't really want to go through this in the beginning because I'm using this more at the end, and that's my filter. I use the QPOS by Make Noise again. This is a stereo filter, and I use this as my master filter for the entire mix. I actually feed my mixer into this, and this actually goes out into this interface right here. And that way I could just do a quick low pass sweep of the entire melody and add in some crazy modulation into these inputs right here. This filter basically it adds a lot of character and it just sounds really great. And that's why I chose to put this at the end of the chain because I'm not really using it for voicing. I'm really just using it to do sweeps on stage and to just like bring up some resonance and really get the sound system rocking wherever I'm playing live at. I have played with in the past adding filters more in the front end of my voicings, but I've come to find that really, I only really need a low pass gate and now a full synth voice with this oscillator, and that's given me all of the voice control that I need. All right, y'all, so that's how I perform with Modular. This is my performance case, and how I just explained it all and how I just patched it all is exactly how I would go out on stage and do a live set, or when I'm in the studio and I'm just looking to generate some grooves. This is really my workflow. And I'm really curious to hear about how your guys' performance systems are set up, and maybe you have some of the same modules that I have in my system. Maybe I'm underutilizing some of these modules in your opinion. Let me know. I love to learn from all module users out there. Everybody's doing things differently. Drop a comment below. Don't be shy. Share what you know. But that's all I got for y'all today. I'm Fess Grandiose, signing off of Reverb. Stay safe and stay tuned for the next episode of Patchwork. Peace.